The war against Israel is different than other wars, past or present, with few exceptions, in that the goal of the enemies of Israel is extermination and complete destruction of the state. Even the Allies that won World War II, which was all-out war that caused the death of well over 70 million people and over 40 million civilians, did not harbor the genocidal goals that Israel faces. The goal of the Allies was the destruction of Hitler and the Nazi regime and German and Japanese war machine. The goal was not the extermination of the German and Japanese people. Not once was the goal the forced removal of the Japanese or Germans or the removal by genocide. In the Vietnam War, the goal of the Americans was to stop the spread of communism, not to exterminate the North Vietnamese population. The goal of the North Vietnamese was to unite South and North Vietnam under one communist government, not exterminate the people of South Vietnam. In all of the recent wars, including the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, the Russian war against Ukraine, the goals may be misguided and wrong, but they are not extermination. The bloody civil war in the United States, the Revolutionary War, World War I, the Spanish-American War, and countless other wars have been painful, bloody, but not wars in which one side or the other faced complete destruction and genocide. Jews lived throughout the Middle East and North Africa, including British-controlled Palestine. They faced persecution before and after Israel became a state in 1948. In 1929, Jews were massacred in Hebron. In the years before and after 1929, in a number of other places in British-controlled Palestine, there were massacres of Jews. There were massacres of Jews not only in British-controlled Palestine, but also in Iraq, Libya, Yemen, and in many other places in the Middle East and North Africa. During the Nazi era, over 90% of the Jewish population of Europe, over 6 million people, 6 million Jews were wiped out. When Israel became a UN-recognized nation in 1948, Israel was attacked by Arab armies on all sides and also by Arab forces inside of the new state. Israel won the war. After Israel won the war, many Jews throughout other countries in the Middle East and North Africa were forced to flee for their lives to Israel. A greater number of Jews that had faced persecution were forced to flee to Israel as refugees, leaving behind their lands and properties. This was a greater number of Jews that had to flee than the number of Arabs that fled from Israel during the 1948 war. The debate as to why Arabs, now called Palestinians, fled from Israel continues to this day. War creates refugees. People flee war to be out of harm's way. The narrative that all of the Arabs that fled from Israel in 1948 were forced out is untrue. Arabs inside of Israel that did not fight against Jews and did not heed the call by Egypt and other Arab countries to leave Israel while they slaughtered Jews with the hope that they would then return after the Jews were slaughtered. These Arabs that did not fight against the Jews and did not flee now make up over 20% of the citizens of Israel with equal and full rights as Jews, except military service is not mandatory for them, unlike it being mandatory for the Jewish population. The forced expulsion of a greater number of Jews from Arab lands than the number of Arabs that fled from Israel continues to be ignored to this day. The Jews that fled from Arab-majority lands and their descendants now constitute the majority population of Israel. Regardless of the narrative that is believed, no grievance, no injustice from the past or present justifies or excuses terror and deliberately attacking and harming civilians. Before Israel became a state and after, the goal was to exterminate the Jews. The goal was no different than what Hitler sought. When Israel became a state in 1948, the attacking Arab armies made clear their goal to destroy the new state and exterminate Jews. The goal of destroying Israel and wiping out its Jewish majority population continues to this day. Hamas openly declares this goal in their words and in their charter. On October 7th, Hamas and Islamic Jihad and others showed the world what they would do to defenseless Jews and civilians on the land of Israel and others if given the chance, namely kidnap, rape, mutilate, murder. Thousands of defenseless people inside of Israel, from babies to old people, were wounded, raped, kidnapped, beheaded, burned alive, and other atrocities were committed against them on that day. Hamas and Islamic Jihad brag that they want death, they want martyrs, as they use the civilians of Gaza as their human shields to hide behind and beneath. Hamas and Islamic Jihad leaders, just like Iranian leaders, and Hezbollah leaders and others sworn to wipe out Israel, are willing to sacrifice the civilians of Gaza and other civilians in the West Bank and other areas, including South Lebanon, but not themselves. As long as the goal remains to destroy Israel and exterminate its Jewish population, there will be no resolution to the war. If the war was about changing the government of Israel or about land, it would be resolved. Because it continues to be about extermination of the Jews of Israel, it has no resolution. If someone truly cares about Arab lives or lives in general, whether it be of Jews, Arabs, or another people, they would not support the genocidal goals of anyone. There is no compromise with an enemy that wants you dead. No matter how many of their own children they are willing to sacrifice in order to achieve this demonic goal. Sadly, millions of people support Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, the corrupt mullahs of Iran, using the pretense that it is Israel committing genocide when they know full well, or when they ignore and know full well that it is Israel that faces genocide. The fact that Israel is stronger than its enemies does not mean that Israel is wrong or that the threat Israel faces of genocide is not real. The threat Israel faces today is no different than what it was over 75 years ago. Israel's enemies can lose many wars. If Israel loses one war, it will be wiped out and the Jewish majority population of Israel will be exterminated. Because hatred against Jews continues to be widespread, the goals of Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the Iranian regime, and others to destroy Israel and commit genocide is broadly supported and embraced. No different than how people gladly embraced Hitler. History shows where that led. This time, the hatred against Jews is often less overt and finds cover under the pretense of concern for Palestinian Arabs. The people truly concerned about Palestinian Arab lives will want no more bloodshed. The only way for this war to finally end is for hate, demonizing, inciting, and the pursuit of genocide to finally end. Jews, Arabs, and all of the other peoples on that small land must find a future together that is no longer absorbed with hate, violence, war, extermination, and terror.